Welcome to Just Healing, where we rediscover humanity in our conversations around trauma and celebrate the unique ways we love and heal. I'm one of your Season 2 co-hosts, Dr. Greg Cason. Trauma doesn't exist in a bubble, and healing shouldn't either. Let's listen, let's learn, let's heal.
I knew from a very small age I could not wait to get out of a small town in Kansas. I'm always coming up with ideas, like just coming up with things. When people tell me I can't, that's my fire. No matter which direction you turn, there's somebody always has an opinion and always somebody that wants to change your view or change the way you speak. This was my journey. I wanted to just change the way people feel about themselves. I always say the past creates us. I think it helps us create who we are.
And welcome to Just Healing Podcast, where we take a deep dive into a diverse range of perspectives and personal stories about the intersectional factors that impact healing for male survivors. The Just Healing Podcast aims to help destigmatize healing by shedding light on the unique experiences beyond a therapist's office. I'm Dr. Greg Cason, and for my section of the podcast, I'm talking to 6 people who can provide information and inspiration to men who are in the process of healing and going beyond surviving to thriving. So let's listen, let's learn, and let's heal. And today I have a very special person, Tony Sweet, who is the owner of UBGo Studios and the host of the, oh my goodness, Tony, help me. I just...
Very popular podcast called Truth Be Told Paranormal.
Truth Be Told, I blanked. I had a blank. So I apologize for that. Yeah, Tony, I actually met, I have to say, because I came to be a guest on a podcast at his studio, and I was wanting to do a podcast of myself, and I thought, this place just feels good. And I go a lot by gut feelings and trust. And I met Tony, and I just thought he was a great guy. I was actually surprised to find out he was the owner. And so I really then started my own podcast here. And then I got to work with Tony and find out more about his story. So wanted to share that with everybody. So Tony, welcome.
Thank you so much, Dr. Greg.
It's good to have you. We are in beautiful downtown Burbank, by the way. Isn't that where we are?
We are the Warner Brother Media District.
Yeah, right across from Warner Brothers Studios, in case people know that. But that's a long way from where you came from. So I know you own a studio now. You have a podcast studio. You have a popular podcast. You've done a lot of big things in your life. But tell me about how you wound up from where you're from, which is in Kansas, to being in one of the most glamorous places in the world.
Well, actually, I grew up in a really small town in Kansas called Granola. There was about 200 people growing up, mostly family and, old family friends. And I grew up in the 70s and 80s. And so I knew from a very small age I could not wait to get out of a small town in Kansas. And once I had the opportunity, graduating high school, went to college on a track scholarship, and started my college career, my first in my family to go and graduate college, and went to Wichita State University. From there, I went on to graduating Wichita State University, and then went to Kansas City for about 7 years, and then felt I was outgrowing Kansas City and moved to Los Angeles, and the adventure began from there. I mean, we can go into deeper details if you want, but that's kind of how I made the transition out here.
So you were the first in your family to go to college. Was your family pro or against college?
Not necessarily against it. They just never thought about it. They definitely were smart enough. My mom and my sisters and brother were smart enough. My dad probably would have flunked out. I was kidding. But he they just never had a desire to go to college. And I just knew that I needed a college degree to hopefully get to where I needed to go and get out of the area.
And when you were in Kansas, what did you dream of doing?
Honestly, I actually wanted to be in some type of entertainment. I didn't know. I like to be a singer. I was a singer. I would sing here and there, and I would imagine being in front of a crowd and all that stuff. But I was very much of an entrepreneur growing up, working at my dad's grocery store. I sold fireworks during the summer. I mowed lawns. I painted houses. All kinds of different stuff growing up, just to make money. And I always enjoyed working for myself and just keeping busy.
And then you went to Wichita State on a track scholarship, which is very impressive. And tell me what your experience was like there.
Well, my first 2 years, actually, I went to Hutchinson Junior College, and then I went on to Wichita State. I got scholarships in both areas, but I enjoyed it. I enjoyed just getting on my own. That's why I say nowadays I can't believe children want to stay living with their parents after high school. I could not wait to get out and move on to my own journey and seeing the world and just getting more experience. But I actually struggled during even in high school and college when it comes to my studies. I was not the book. The book didn't come easy to me, meaning I had to really work at just getting average grades. But I was more of I always said, a creative mind. So, back then when you didn't do well I always say in the book, they looked at you not as, the smart one in the class, and they would treat you as such. And teachers were more, I don't know, had permission to treat kids differently than they do now. I guess I don't know what it's like because it's been like 35 years since I've been in college or in high school. But yeah, I struggled a lot through college to make the grades, but I did. I mean, I made it, and I got my degree and my bachelor's degree, and I worked my tail off, and then I went to start working early. Like, I actually quit track. I was in track, but I quit track just to get the experience. That was my mindset of being a businessman. Is I knew track was great, but it wasn't going to get me the experience I needed to get my first job. So I quit and started working in businesses, corporate businesses, very quickly. And I was very fortunate to get hired on in management positions very quickly before I even got out of college. So
that is impressive. And then at what point you'd wanted to be a singer? Were you singing during this time?
No, just at home. I mean, it was more, it was a dream, but my family were all singers. Like, my dad, he was an amazing singer. My sisters sang. I sang. They all played some type of instrument. I never played an instrument, but my brother, he couldn't sing. My mom couldn't sing, but they were very good at, like, the piano. So very musically inclined. And so years later, though, that voice did change my life and move me into what I'm doing now. So
Tell me about that.
all right. So in 2008, I had moved to, well, I moved to LA in 2002. I worked in corporate, and when I moved here, I thought, I just can't do corporate anymore. I'm tired of wearing the suit and ties. So I became a personal trainer and a fitness instructor. I did very well. I got, since I was in sports, and I was an All-American hammer thrower and all that stuff. And so it really helped me build my confidence in the fitness industry. So I picked up a lot of clients very quickly here, which was great. And I, supported myself and So in 2008, my nephew, he had auditioned for American Idol in Kansas. He's a great singer, and he almost made it. He got in front of Simon and Paula and Randy. That's when they were all still there. Randy and Paula said no, but Simon said yes. They said you have the voice, but you just you don't have the stage presence. You're too nervous. So no.
Wow.
So he wanted to come out to California to get experience, and I said, okay, you can stay with me, but this is not going to be a cakewalk. I'm not going to let you just get involved in all these other things. So you're going to work your tail off and see the real world. And so he moved in with me, and I told him, just audition for everything, anything singing, go to karaoke, go to open mics. And so there was a audition that came through, and it was for the Gospel Dream. It was like this gospel music. And so I said, go, just audition. Even if you don't like the music, just go.
Mm-hmm. Good advice.
And he said, I just don't know, Uncle Tony. But he goes, listen, if you go and audition with me, I'll go. And I'm like, I don't want to audition. But he said, no, if you go with me. I said, okay, I'll go. So I end up auditioning with him. Him and me end up making the top three and making it to Nashville.
Wow.
And so he chickened out. I end up going to Nashville in 2008, and I was on this reality show in Nashville called The Gospel Dream. And, but I was like, well, I've been openly gay for, at this time, almost 20 years. And I said, I ain't going back in the closet. So, if they want me, they're going to have to take me just as I am. So I went, and I didn't win, thank God, because you have to sign a contract and all this other stuff if you win. So, so I end up coming back. The Advocate, which was a big gay magazine at the time, they did a feature story on me.
Wow.
And I was supposed to get the cover, but because Ellen DeGeneres got married to Portia, I know, I could not believe who they picked her over me. No, it's kidding. But it actually helped sell more magazines. So it actually helped me, being in the future. So it actually started my kind of career in singing for a little bit. And then I decided, I heard about this online radio, and I thought, well, if I could take the followers that I've started building up, I guess you could call them fans at the time, but I call them, followers, and bring them to a location where I don't have to go anywhere, travel anywhere. I said that actually might work. So that's when I started my first podcast in 2008. It was called On Air with Tony Sweet. There's the podcasts are still out there. But it started as the first gay Christian radio or podcast, I think, in America. I've not known anybody else that had one before that. So that's how the music kind of changed my life, even though it was years later when I thought it was, because I had people like, oh, aren't you too old at 38 to get started as a singer? And I'm like, whose rules is that? So
very good. Yeah, no, and I have to say I really like that attitude. But what an amazing thing, because in 2008, podcasts were kind of, you were out there hitting in the wilderness, weren't you? I mean, it wasn't quite the huge thing it is right now.
I looked up the other day, in 2008, there were 25,000 podcasts.
Okay. And now is in the millions?
6 to 8 million, I think.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. Which in 2000, that's still 25,000. That's still a lot for the time. But yeah, majority of those are gone now. I'm probably still one of the very few left that originally started. So I'm
But
still here doing my thing.
it's incredible because a gay Christian podcast, I think, brings up a lot of images. So what attracted you to doing that?
Well, I mean, I wanted to go off of the basis of, what I was just experiencing, being on the gospel dream, but I was always had a fascination with religion and God. Um, Not necessarily I never grew up in the church, which I think would probably was good that I didn't. It wasn't forced on me. I wasn't, told I was bad or going to hell for any of my sins and all that good stuff. I chose later to seek God and to seek religion. But the religion part for me was not necessarily just Christianity. I remember going to like Buddhist temples and different churches, different, synagogue, just asking questions to, you know, preachers and ministers and, rabbis and Buddhist monks, just for years, just curious on their beliefs and why they believe in what they do and what was the origin of the religions. And so I always found that more fascinating than just, following somebody's orders of how they interpreted the Bible or, their book that some prophet had put together. So yeah, and so I wanted to bring it to the airwaves of bringing people together that did not have a voice, because a lot of people at the time, especially in the gay community, even to this day, even though they want to still be a Christian or want to be part of a religion, a lot of the people won't let them be a part of the church. And I think that's sad because, God is God. God is not a being of hatred. And I always said I want to write a book. If my mother can love me unconditionally, why can't God?
Ah, I love that.
Yeah, just because, my mother and God is greater than your mother, they always say. So it's like, how can my mother love me unconditionally but God can't? So, yeah, that was kind of the basis of bringing that show to light.
That's incredible. How long did that show go on?
It went on for about a year and a half. And the reason I switched gears is because I found how much politics is in religion, even on the gay churches. I realized it was just to the point where no matter which direction you turn, there's somebody always has an opinion, and always somebody that wants to change your view or change the way you speak. And I just didn't like that. I didn't like people telling me what I could and couldn't say. And that's why, because, this was my journey. It wasn't, if you wanted to go along with it, you can. But, if you want to get your own podcast and talk about what you want, then that's what you want. So, yeah, I was going to churches and singing and stuff, and they would tell me, oh, you can't say these lyrics because that'll make this group, hurt their feelings, or this group will hurt their. And so I just thought, this is not fun for me anymore. I didn't want to be a part of the politics. I wanted to just change the way people feel about themselves, and give them freedom of knowing that God loved them and no matter what. And so, yeah, when I started seeing the politics, I just thought, this is too much. I can't support a group. And if you don't support a group, and then they start turning on you. So I just said, okay, I'll completely change my format.
And it's really interesting because we often know about churches rejecting gay people, but you got it also from gay churches.
Oh, more from the gay churches and the gay organizations, that were there to support you. But no, it was from the corporate, the big nonprofits to, local churches that would constantly tell me what I could and couldn't say. And I'm like, this is not This is my show, not yours.
It also strikes me that you were getting into this because you had questions. You were seeking
Still
answers.
do.
You still do. Well, that's good. I think it's good because it keeps us alive. It keeps us continually thriving and looking forward and finding out new things and discovering new people. But, it just strikes me that you had developed a whole podcast where you could do that for each podcast. You could talk to people and ask new things and discover new things. And we're limited eventually by people telling you what you should do or putting you in that particular mold.
Yeah, I actually had a lot of the, I would say, straight community and straight churches supported it more than I think the gay community did.
Why do you think that might be, Tony?
I think because a lot of people still, it's happens on both sides. I think when one group hurts another, there's that bitterness that they hold, like you said, even in your show, about forgiveness and forgetting. I don't think a lot of people are forgiving or forgetting. And so when they see somebody else trying to do good and give and try to show that both sides can love each other, they don't like that because they want the other side to look. I mean, it's happening in politics today. They want the other side to be the enemy, the evil person or evil group. So I just think it's just a lot of hurt people that want to hurt people.
Hurt people, hurt people. Yes, it's quite a good truism. But it's very profound that you did dip your toe into that water and did try to make a difference and kind of open up the world as opposed to limit it. So you eventually stopped that podcast, and then where did that journey take you from there?
Actually, it turned into more of an entertainment show. I end up between On Air with Tony Sweet did almost 800 and some episodes. I know,
incredible.
Crazy, right?
That's incredible.
Yeah. So I did that transition from, because I'd always, I'd have crossover even in my religious show. I would have entertainers on talking about religion and so I just realized, I enjoyed talking to a lot of these entertainers. So I started just reaching out to more of the LA publicists and agents and all that stuff and started getting, I would say the F listers, and then I would slowly started growing. And then my big break, I end up interviewing Monique, the comedian.
I was talking about her today.
Were you really?
So funny. I absolutely love Monique.
Yeah, I do too.
She's hilarious and such a big heart. She's amazing.
And I interviewed her when she had her talk show was just getting ready to release, and Precious was just getting ready to come out.
Wow, she was popping. Yeah.
Oh yeah. So I was very fortunate.
Precious, just in case people. Yeah.
She won an Oscar for that, and so that kind of opened the door for other bigger name people to start coming on my show, because I think, and I was one of the first to have bigger name people on my podcast, because a lot of publicists, they're like, what's a podcast, or what's, online radio? No. So I started getting bigger name people very early on. And then she ended up coming back after she won the Oscar, because she said, the only reason I come back because you treated me well and you're very respectful. And she said, and she even gave me tickets to go see her concert or her stand-up show down at, it was a Staples Center area at the time, but now it's something else. That was kind of the way it began. And then I started getting all these amazing actors and musicians. And I mean, I forget sometimes how many people I've got to interview, Larry Hagman and Linda Eder and Linda, trying to think, just Debbie Reynolds and all these people that just started coming on my show. And I was like, oh my gosh, these people that I admired. And then I started kind of the old saying, petering out. I was just like, it's kind of the same old thing. But I said, what do I want to do? What do I want to really talk about? And that's when I started interviewing people about ancient civilizations and ghosts and UFOs. And I thought, this is what I really like to do and really love. So now, almost 900 episodes later,
Wow.
truth be told,
Wow.
yeah. So, it's one of those things that I still love to do, and because I'm always learning, always learning about some kind of new event or discovery, and I love it. I love doing what I do, and I love working with all these other podcasts too. Just watching them grow and create their own brand and their own followers, and yeah, it's fun.
Well, your own podcast is really a delight, and it reminds me, and I'm sure you've heard this before. I apologize, but like Art Bell's show and
Oh yeah,
George Norrie's show, from which I listened
uh-huh.
to as a kid and growing up,
Yeah.
and I thought those were fun.
Well, they were good mentors, even though I've met George. I didn't meet Art, but uh, good mentors to kind of feed off of.
Yeah, fascinating stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And so you're always discovering and opening. But then you have your own podcast studio, which is how I met you.
Mm-hmm.
And tell me about that, because that's a big decision to move into that direction.
So yeah, I was much of an entrepreneur, and so when I was at this company that I first started out at, every time I'm always coming up with ideas. Always, like my mind's even my husband's like, he goes, you are so good at like just coming up with things. I've always been that way, but I would say, hey, can we do this? No. Can we do no? And so I was just constantly getting no's on how to increase numbers or how to increase just getting my name out there, or all our names out there. And so I thought, well, if all I'm going to hear is no, then I think I'm just going to go ahead and try to get my own network started. So I just learned, watched, and my first person I asked to invest with me, he said, sure, let's do it. Within a month and a half, we got a place at Sunset Bronson. And that was our first location. And after 2 years, he went his way, I went mine, because just creative differences. And so, and then I went back to Sunset Gower. I was there 8 years, and now I've been at this location in Burbank for 7. So,
It's fantastic. Well, it's a beautiful
yeah.
site, and those are studios, and studio, like locations for those who are.
Yes.
Where is
I love it.
Sunset?
Yeah.
Hollywood, but and we're very much in Hollywood right now. Well, it's, I think the heart of it, with Warner Brothers being right here, and all the studios are all around here,
Mm-hmm.
including yours. I just really loved that. Here is the story, and people believe that their past kind of dooms them, and here you're one
Mm-hmm.
more good illustration of you transcended, and you kept going and kept pushing.
Mm-hmm.
And there was some luck in there, and maybe some the
Yeah.
talent too. And how great that your cousin said, "Hey, come with me to this audition," because that
Right.
that launched you into
Honestly, it changed everything. I probably would still be a trainer at doing what I did, which would have been fine. But it just opened up doors. And I always say the past creates us. It's not it dooms us. People sometimes think as past hurts our future, unless you're in prison. I think it helps us create who we are, and never give up. I always tell, when people tell me I can't, that's my fire.
when they say you can't, it lights a fire under, and you do.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Excellent. Well, Tony, I really appreciate you being with us. It's been such a pleasure meeting you and getting to know you and working with you. And where can people find you? Well, of course, the Truth Be Told podcast. But I'll let you.
Well, you have The Tony Sweet on Instagram, Tony Sweet on Facebook. My paranormal is actually clubparanormal.com because I'm starting to create more shows, not me hosting it, but under my brand. So it's called the Club Paranormal. But yeah, you can just look up Truth Be Told Paranormal and find us pretty much anywhere. And then TikTok, you can Club Paranormal. Pretty much in YouTube. That's we have a nice following there. So yeah, it's just look up Truth Be Told Paranormal or Club Paranormal. You'll find us anywhere and all the podcasts.
Good. Thank you so much for joining us today. I really appreciate you taking the time and for sharing your story with us. I'm sure it'll be valuable to a lot of people.
Oh, thank you for everything. That was great.
Thank you. Well, this Just Healing podcast is a podcast of the Men Healing Organization. Men Healing provides healing resources for men and male-identified individuals ages 18 and older who have experienced sexual victimization during childhood or as an adult. Our range of services include educational services as well as in-person and virtual healing events for skills building, connection, and community. For more information, go to menhealing.org. I'm Dr. Greg Cason. Until next time, be well, and thank you, Tony. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Thank you for joining us on this episode of Just Healing. Join us for new episodes throughout 2024 where we continue to spread the message of hope and healing, and welcome Season 2's final co-host, Jace Barron. And remember, you are worthy, and trauma doesn't define us, and healing is a collective journey. This podcast is produced by Dr. Deborah and myself, Dr. Greg Cason, in collaboration with Men Healing, a national nonprofit dedicated to helping provide accessible resources and community for any male or masculine identifying individual who has experienced sexual harm. Men Healing aims to help heal, inspire, and break isolation for survivors. You can donate, check out our healing events, videos, and other resources at menhealing.org. If you or someone you know has been a victim of sexual harm and you need to talk with someone, RAIN can help. Call their National Sexual Assault Hotline to speak with a trained staff member who can provide you with confidential crisis support. It's free, confidential, and 24/7. Call 1-800-656-4673 or visit hotline.rain.org. That's RAIN spelled RAINN.org.